Hey there, gang. Today's video is going to be a showcase of what I like to call my free-to-play clown build. This is a loadout that you can run on clown, assuming that you just picked up DBD and you don't have no other killer but the base killers that they give you, in addition to clown, right? Whether or not you come with clown, you just decide to buy them. So you've got, I believe it's Trapper, Wraith, Nurse, and let me see, we can actually look right here. Yes, we've got Trapper, Wraith, Hillbilly, and Nurse, right? So these are your four. Oh, also and Huntress. So that's all you really have there. But you also decide that you want to get clown. We are going to be looking at a quick match where I ran this loadout, and we'll kind of talk afterward about kind of how the build worked and how things really were the way that they were, and kind of how things could have been different. But before we get into that, before we actually see the match itself, let's kind of talk about why we chose what it is that we did. Okay, so first things first, we ignore the offering. This is just BP. I assumed, especially if you are a new player, you're going to be wanting BP. You want to unlock more things. You probably don't have much unlocked in the way of add-ons, perks, and in order to even get access to some of these things, well, not at least when it comes to this build. One of the nice things about this build specifically is that if you literally just got the game, you bought clown before you even played DBD, you could get this entire loadout without having to prestige any other killer. Okay, so you come with Trapper. I believe it's Trapper, Wraith, Hillbilly, Nurse, and Huntress. Forgive me, gang, it's been a long time. At least my copy came with Huntress. I think some other consoles will get a different killer. But yeah, like if you came with all of these killers and you got clown, regardless, you don't need to level up any of those other killers. You can just straight up level clown and you're going to get this full loadout, okay? So, but I assume you're going to want BP, so you're going to take the BP offering. And when it comes to add-ons, well, there you go. You've got Sticky Soda and you got Thick Cork Stopper. These are two yellow add-ons. That means that because they're uncommon, you're going to get a lot of them in the Blood Webs. You don't have to worry about going a long time without having one of these two add-ons. And the nice thing is these aren't just the only add-ons you can run. We are talking a new player. When you're brand new, the expectations are a lot lower, gang. Like I run, I mean, gang, this is my loadout, right? This is my loadout because I'm at a very high level of clown DBD. You know what I mean? I'm playing against very good players that are running very strong builds, that are very coordinated, that play well independently. The game is a lot different when it comes to respect to what I'm doing. But when you're brand new, right, and this is what you're running, like you can get away with this because the expectations, like I said, they're a lot different. Okay, excuse me. So we've got Thick Cork Stopper and we've got Sticky Soda. This is going to give you an extra bottle, and this is going to reduce your reloading time. Both of these benefits are tertiary, and they are flexible. They're not the greatest. I mean, I do think having an extra bottle is wonderful, but this isn't something that is going to be very dynamic and instrumental in actually getting you hits. It's just going to be very reflexive and you could say comfortable. They're very quality of life. It's going to make you feel good, right? You're going to like, no one doesn't like having a quicker reload when they play clown. It's just, why do I not run this add-on? Because I could be running one of these. You know what I mean? And that's what it all boils down to. But when you're a new player, again, expectations are different, and this is a great add-on. The other yellows, the grays, for one thing, are kind of interesting and not really worth playing around with. I mean, party bottle's fun, and, new player, you want to probably have more fun. You're not really as focused directly on, directly winning, and okay, good, that's great. This is something that you're going to really enjoy for that reason, Stay away from parade gloves. That's not really going to help you because it really messes with bottle arc trajectory and just angles and charge times. It's a lot to get into, but don't mess with this. this is kind of fun, but this, I mean, like, this is fun. I'm not going to not recommend you not play around with this. You're probably not going to want to run it all the time, but I mean, I'm not going to say don't play around with VHS. Feather's kind of not that great. I don't really, yeah, like these are, when it comes to, excuse me, when it comes to add-ons that you're going to have very consistent access to, I really do think these two are going to be the go-to. You know, like, these aren't the best yellows, by the way. Obviously, I really, really love Solvent Jug, but I'm not going to, in a free-to-play clown build that's really tailored for new players, I'm not going to put this add-on in the loadout because this is not really something you should be messing with. I think when it comes to using your yellow bottles, that does take a decent amount of experience and time. Not too much, like, we're not talking crazy too much time, especially if you're exclusively dedicating your attention to clown. But you know, it's not something I'm very comfortable putting there for a free to play new player clown build. But again, still a very good yellow add-on, just to put that out there. But let's assume, what happens if you run low on one of these two, right? Is there anything else you could run? Yes, there is. You could run kerosene can. Not the greatest. It'll help in some situations in very minimal ways. Better than nothing, though, right? You know, I mean, you could run nothing. You could take both these off and run nothing, too. You know, the greens, you're going to get an okayish amount of greens. So when it comes to which of the greens can you use, Smelly Inner Souls feel really good. You know, just like Cork Stopper, but I think in a better way. I do think Inner Souls are better in ways that it's really hard to kind of get into that would be, I guess, decipherable, you know, like tailored for new players. So let's just say I do think this will be more enjoyable and better. Again, still good in the same respect as Stick Cork Stopper. You know, you probably aren't going to be playing around too much with Acid Vial purely because Floppy Butcher. Still a good add-on in place of that, right? You know, we're talking, again, much lower bars. When you cut off purples, you know, things like running Sulfuric Acid Vial in lieu of Sloppy Butcher, it does become more attractive and much more viable, right? So you could be doing that. You could be running Chloroform. Chloroform is also a good add-on for new players because, you know, your bottle placement's probably not going to be peak. You know, it's probably going to be a little bit off. I mean, hey, shit, gang, even I fuck up sometimes. You know, if I'm going to be candid, if I'm going to be crass, even I don't have perfect bottle placement every single time. There are times where I technically would have benefited from Chloroform, you know. Does that mean that I should be running Chloroform? No, because again, at the level I'm playing, I fucking need the shit that I run. But, you know, that's really irrespective and besides the point. This add-on does have a purpose that it serves well, you know, and with the bar, again, being lower, something like this is going to be much more valuable, and I want to put emphasis on that. Valuable. You are going to get hits as a result of this. You're going to misplace a pink, but it's going to be because of the increased radius of the screen. You're going to get value from it, you know. And again, this is just something you can run, right? If you just are running low on one of these two, you know, it's nice to understand and kind of be have, you know, good reflective understanding of what is really available to you, because once you really get, again, past these yellows and these greens, you're going to have a much harder time getting these purples and in these pinks. The reason why I have so many is because I'm Prestige 100 and I have the maximum level blood web. This means I get 2 guaranteed pinks every single web. I get a couple of purples every single web and a shit ton of greens. You know, so I'm living great. You know, I have hundreds of map offerings because I only put my blood points on clown. I have hundreds of add-on, or thousands really in some cases, with all respect. You know, you add up all my grays, I have 20,000. That's because of that, right? But when you're a new player, that's not the position you're going to be in. So those are good choices. Don't ever run Heart Shorn. Do not ever run this as a new clown player. Do not ever run this add-on. Do not ever do it. Flask of Bleach is great. You're going to have a lot more access to this add-on when it comes to really strong add-ons. This is one of the best clown add-ons, by the way. Like, actually one of the best, even compared to some of the purples and pinks. You're going to have a lot more access to this. Definitely recommend running it if you're looking for a good time on clown. You're looking for a much better experience. So that's another good thing, too. Just keep all of this in mind. The reason why I'm spending all this time, some people are like, why are we spending all this time talking about add-ons? Because this, with this tailored emphasis on helping a new clown player, I want to really show you what you can work with where you are not being pressured here. These are the best, but they're not going to be, not running this is not going to be, as a new player, what holds you back somewhat doing well. Okay? So anyways, that's the add-ons. We've got Thick Cork Stopper, Sticky Soda. We've talked about all that. We've talked about the others. Keep everything I've said in mind. Let's talk about the perks. Okay? Talking about the perks. First things first, Sloppy, Jolt, Noed, Pop. This is a Clown perk, which means you just level up Clown, you get this, you know. Noed, Jolt, and Sloppy, these are general. You're going to get these. That's what's great about this this perk loadout. Now, why do we run these perks? I believe we already mentioned, we already talked all about the emphasis on these being generals and only being Clown. Why do we run these perks? Sloppy is going to mean that whenever you hit a survivor, they're going to be debuffed with reduced healing speed, in addition to healing regression, assuming the healing action is not completed. This is huge. When you are tunneling a survivor, when you are spreading pressure, this means that a survivor has to commit to that healing action in order to actually get value from the time that they spend. Now, if they decide to cancel the healing action, say they're using a med kit, all of those charges are not coming back on their med kit. They're gone. This really, really pushes survivors to where they have to make really inefficient but hasty and what you could say desperate decisions just in light of the situation that they're in. And you can capitalize off of that. You know, I've had survivors that, because of Sloppy Butcher and because they know I'm going to tunnel, they try to heal on hook, get it off before I come back, because it's the fastest way to get a heal off is if you literally do it right after you unhook. But in the process, the extra time from Sloppy Butcher means I get there in time, that healing gets regressed, and I get an easy tunnel out because they're under the hook when I initiated the chase and they're in a dead zone, especially when they don't have any tunnel. So this definitely pays its dividends. I definitely would say you keep this in the build. Next is Jolt. Jolt is really nice because, especially with Sloppy, when survivors stay injured, you get immediate momentum regression. It's not too great, it's only 8%, but when you are downing injured survivors, this pops off. This really starts going off when you've got a lot of injured survivors and you can just start downing people in sequence. And what's nice about this too is usually this 8%, unless the gen is incredibly close to being done, or there are multiple survivors or really strong toolboxes in play, that 8% is going to buy you enough time after downing that survivor to hook them, get value from Pop Goes the Weasel, and then kick that gen based on its very high current progress and knock it down very far. Okay, so really good synergy there. And, you know, that is one nice thing about Jolt. But ultimately, Jolt does have its weaknesses. You know, that, again, the impetus is that a survivor will retouch that gen, right, that we're talking about. If they don't, you're going to be relying on really, really slow passive regression. You're going to have to either get zero value from Pop, or you're going to have to go for a different gen, which again exposes the objective pressure you had from that hook, right? So, you know, again, Jolt does have its downsides. You know, I don't think this is entirely the perfect perk to include in this free-to-play build, but given that there is no cost to it, you know, like as far as having to commit outward when it comes to blood point investment, I think it's okay to run for right now. You can definitely swap it out, though. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about what you'd swap it out with. Next up, No One Escapes Death. This is one of the most obnoxious perks to a lot of people. It's received a lot of counterplay when it comes to nerfing and balance changes as of recently, you know, ever since. You can now see it for up to 24 meters away, which makes it really easy during the end game if the killer's camping to just cleanse it and then play around that if the survivors really commit to that. But assuming they don't, right? Assuming survivors don't commit to the counterplay of Noed, this can literally just sweep and win you games. A lot of survivors hate it for that reason. It gives you 4% movement speed, which is a partial counter to hope. Not the greatest, it's a partial counter to hope. If they don't have hope and they only have made for this, you're going to overcome made for this. It's going to give you instant down potential through the permanent exposed, because again, we're talking about if they don't cleanse. So a lot of people really really hate this perk when it comes to just the multiple ways that it actually does help the killer in the end game. Because again, it's not just the instant down potential, it's the 4% movement speed. That is a big deal, you know, especially when we're talking about Clown here, who both slows down survivors with his pink bottles and speeds up his own, you know, the movement speed with his yellows, right? So, Noed, very, very good perk. I definitely say include this as a new player. You're likely going to have a decent amount of matches where, hey, you don't, you know, perform the most perfectly during the gen phase, the generator phase. You lose all your generators. And in the process, what's left is you have to clean up before they open the exit gates. Well, you know, if you run something else that's not Noed as a new player, you are not going to be able to do anything about that. If we're going to be flat out and just direct, it takes, what is it, 16, 18 seconds to open an exit gate, something in that realm. You are not going to get that. You're not going to preemptively run up to a survivor without Noed that are fully healthy, especially if they're running adrenaline, by the way. You know, that's not even getting into how the exposed status effect counters adrenaline, right? But you are not going to be able to start a chase with a survivor that's healthy with non-regressing 16-second exit gates and get anything really done unless they make some type of colossal misplay. You know, it's very likely that whoever you don't kill without Noed as a new player with some type of loadout before the exit gates get open, that's all you're getting. And excuse me, before all the generators get done, that's all you're really getting. You know, the power of Made for This plus Hope, Adrenaline, just the sheer altruism. Because again, too, whoever's not dead, this is a really important deal too. Not only are exit gates very quick to open, but whoever's not dead on the survivor side, once all the gens are done, they have no other focus besides either leaving or hoping their other survivors leave. So if they know for a fact there's a damn good chance that they're just going to be able to leave no matter what as a backup plan, they have no real reason not to commit to helping their other teammates leave too. You get what I mean? And that's really what the problem all boils down to as far as to not being able to secure those kills. You know, you're going to be dealing with survivors who now have a primary focus and attention on getting their teammates out because they don't have to be as concerned about themselves, and as a result of not running Noed, you're not going to have any means to deal with that. So always keep Noed as a new player, especially in the loadouts. Definitely say go with that. Now, Hop Goes the Weasel. This is probably, I think, for a brand new player with access to no other killer but the base killers that are given to you and the base perks that are given to you. This is, and Clown, this is the best single instant regression that is available to you. You are always going to want to run this perk simply because of the fact that you are going to get the most regression from it every single time. There is nothing better than that. Jolt does not compare. I mean, unless you are somehow getting multiple slugs without hooks, or you are just not getting value from pop after you hook people, which does happen, gang. That does actually happen. So unless that is consistently happening over a very incredible period of time, this is literally the best single target instant regression perk that you can get for generators. Okay, so always would run this. Now, before we get into what would we replace with Jolt, let's talk about Clown's other perks, right? Why would we not run Clown's other perks first? First things first, Coulrophobia. This, on a lot of maps are not small. There are very few maps that are small enough for this to really be super strong. The maps that this really excels are vertical maps, because vertical maps are not as long horizontally. They're a lot smaller, and because they're vertical, that means that you're able to get much more value from your terror radius and how it goes between multiple floors. You don't have that benefit on Ormond. You don't have that benefit on Mother's Dwelling, Temple of Purgation. You don't have it even necessarily on Garden of Joy. You don't have it on Borgo. You don't have it on Suffocation Pit. You don't have it on Azeroth's Resting Place. You know, there are I mean, this is literally me just listing maps, right? I'm not even putting too much thought into it. And that is why this perk ultimately is just not that great. Now, where is it good? Gideon Meat Plant, Midwich Elementary School, Dead Dog Saloon. That's probably about it, gang. I mean, that I can immediately think of. That's why I wouldn't say you really would put this in a strong, consistent loadout. Because that's what this is. This is for a brand new Clown player, strong, consistent loadout. Now, what about the other perk? What is it? Bamboozle? Same page. That's good. We don't have to change anything. Vault speed, 15%. Yeah, the thing is, There was a time as a new player you probably could run this. I'll say this. Initially, I wasn't going to recommend this. You probably could run Bamboozle in place of Jolt. There was a good bit of time where I did this, you know, especially before I was super crazy with the yellows and I was super efficient with the pink and the yellow placements. I ran Bamboozle, you know. So as far as in place of Jolt, right? If you wanted to drop Jolt for Bamboozle, I'll actually change my mind in the middle of editing and say go ahead. This will enable you to set up pinks, because again, you know, as a newer player, you're not going to be playing super perfectly with the yellows and the pinks. This will allow you to just put more emphasis on pinks, vaulting windows, blocking the window, playing around the pink, and at least getting something as you start to learn how to play clown and adapting to getting better with them, okay? So Bamboozle, sure, definitely. And I would say in this build, drop Jolt for it if you're going to run Bamboozle. Let's see. What about the other perks, right? We talked about clown perks and the general perks. Are there any other perks that I would recommend you run? Yes, there are. And it is by both Nurse and Trapper. First, let's go with Trapper. He has Brutal Strength and Agitation. First, well, I want to make this very clear. I mentioned Brutal Strength. We're not recommending Brutal Strength. The reason why I do not recommend Brutal Strength is because it encourages, as a new player, for you to commit toward unsavory gameplay with the idea in mind of actually learning to grasp both of Clown's bottles in action. When it comes to learning how to play, you're going to condition yourself to making what I would like to refer to as suboptimal gameplay, because Clown has the ability with his yellows and his pinks to play around so many palettes. If you start running Brutal Strength and you are just kicking these palettes, you are not really going to be taking advantage or providing yourself at any point with opportunities to really take advantage of that. And you're also, in a lot of situations, you're going to be extending your chase times. I mean, if we're being purely objective, your chase times are going to be longer because you will be kicking pallets. Survivors will be holding W because in a lot of places it doesn't make a difference. They're still going to make it to a new tile. Either it's a very strong window or it's another pallet. You know, they get a window into a very strong pallet. And that's why I really don't recommend this from Trapper, right? As a new player, I do not recommend this from Trapper when it comes to playing Clown. Agitation, however, I actually do think is a solo perk this does have potential. I do think you could replace Jolt with this. Because with Agitation, what you're about to see, especially in this new match, we did not need Agitation for what you're about to see in this upcoming match when it comes to our hook placement. But what's really strong about this is Clown, you know, I talk about this all the time. Clown is a tunneler and a camper. You know, I tunnel and camp starting from 5 gens. I play around the speed and flow of my chases and how I expect the gens to get done and what gen placement I have for the late game that is going to be very strong. And I try to tunnel and camp and get good hooks based on that. And what this perk does, Agitation, is this damn well secures that you are going to get a very good hook placement for the tunnel out. You know, if you have a, let's say, very slightly poor early game, right? And you need a very quick re-hook after they get unhooked and you tunnel them re-back, this is what Agitation will do for you when you otherwise would not be able to do without it. What this does is if there is a corner hook, a vulnerable hook in a dead zone, there are no nearby pallets, no strong windows, you can, with Agitation, especially with yellow bottles, again, you can stack Agitation with Clown's yellow bottles to go even faster. You can hook survivors in these vulnerable positions to tunnel them back right afterward. So that is actually a reason why I would, on its own, recommend this from Trapper. If we're looking at actually investing blood points and prestige in characters without even purchasing new characters yet, Agitation's good for that reason. It's great, but it's kind of, again, there are going to be times when you don't need it. You know, we're going to see a match on Shelter Woods right now in this video where I didn't need Agitation to get very vulnerable corner hooks. But maybe it was something like Ormond. Maybe it was something like, geez, it could be something like even Suffocation Pit, where I get a down near the middle of the map. There are really so many dynamic situations where Agitation, or even Agitation plus a yellow bottle, is going to literally be the difference and you hooking a survivor in a place where you can tunnel them out much easier shortly afterward. Hell, you have altruistic survivors that come to body block. Agitation is what's going to be allowing you to get around them, so you don't have to hit them, so you don't have to concede that free wiggle progress, so you can get that hook off without losing it. This is actually an underrated perk, even without synergy with other specific hook perks. Really, really want to put that on the table, even as a new player clown. Really want to, because again, you don't have to invest anything on this besides just prestiging a killer that you already own at the beginning of the game. So, Agitation, good perk. Lastly, the only other perk from any of the other killers that you get when you just get this game is going to be Nurse's Calling. And again, this is in place of Jolt. Nurse's Calling, especially, you know, when survivors are looking to heal whoever you're tunneling out, or if they're healing themselves with a med kit, this one comes in handy. This perk right here is going to make it very easy for you to punish injured survivors. And again, you know, you've got Sloppy, right? Sloppy makes it harder for them to heal themselves, which means you're going to likely have more situations, especially, you know, at lower levels when the expectations are lower. I know I use that phrase a lot too, and I want to put emphasis on that. I use lower expectations to really kind of show that, you know, there's no need to kind of stress yourself as much, right? It's okay to kind of take these factors in mind. But yeah, when you have Sloppy Butcher, and people are going to be, you know, mangled and hemorrhaged, and they're probably likely going to be more injured, you're going to be able to run Nurse's Calling and likely catch them while there's injured, healing themselves, and then punish that. You know, they're going to probably, a lot of people, they heal when there's a line of sight difference. They don't necessarily, like, that's where they heal. They don't heal where they have a lot of structural defense, right? They're not at a very strong pallet necessarily. Like, a lot of really good survivors will do that. But a lot of times you will just catch survivors hiding behind a rock. They'll be sitting behind a rock in a dead zone, thinking you don't hear or see them, 28 meters away, healing, and then you see them with Nurse's Calling, and you start to walk up to them. If they break early, well, you're going to catch them anyways because they're in the dead zone. They're going to lose all the healing or aggression. If they try to commit, well, Sloppy may give you the time to catch them. And again, because they're in the dead zone, even if they do complete it, you hit them. They're injured again. You get an easy chase because they're in a dead zone. You get what I mean? So, like, it does pay dividends in a lot of situations to run this as a flex perk in place of Jolt. You know, doesn't mean Jolt again is bad. I'm just giving you guys some different choices, different things that, again, you can run in place of just these 4 specific perks. But that is otherwise it when it comes to perks I do think you can run. The others are highly too situational at the moment, I would say. Now, maybe you could run Bitter Murmur, right, in place of Jolt. I guess Bitter Murmur in place of Jolt would also be good. That's more emphasis on the late game. That would mean that you could just chase people directly with Noed. You could go No One Escapes Death and Bitter Murmur right at the last gen pop and get some really cheesy downs. You'll make a lot of people mad. So that is a possibility too, actually. Yeah, you could go Bitter Murmur too, but the general perks that you are given and the ones that you get from the other killers are just otherwise not too good. You know, I already mentioned Brutal Strength, why I don't really like it on Clown. Unnerving Presence, again, same problem with Coulrophobia because of the Terror Radius dependency. You know, Predator and Bloodhound and Shadowborn, I mean, no. No. You know, I'm not going to spend too much time on that because it's not really needed. Lightborn and Tanker. Lightborn, I understand people are concerned about flashlights, but come on, gang. You know, like, you know. Tankerer, Clown can't capitalize off of Tankerer because he's got no map mobility, so no. Strider doesn't really help at all in any practical way. Clown doesn't have the map mobility or pressure to apply and get value from Thanatophobia, so one other killer. Huntress, Beast of Prey, Territorial. Yeah, none of these really work either. You don't have, especially, here's the thing. Let's talk about real quick, briefly on Huntress Lullaby. The only thing I want to talk about this is that you don't really get any other Hexes base kit. When you are brand new to DBD, from the looks of it, yeah, you don't get any other Hexes. No, is there Thrill of the Hunt? Thrill of the Hunt's base kit, isn't it? Hold on. Or is that what that is? Yeah, so you get Lullaby. I believe Thrill of the Hunt actually is base kit. In which case, you have 2 Hexes. Where is it? Thrill of the Hunt, right here. Right. So you have 2 Hexes, I believe. Not really anything you can work with when it comes to a Lullaby build. If there were skill checks on totems, I'd say, yeah, Thrill of the Hunt Lullaby, but no, you know, it's not really a thing I could recommend, and so that's really it when it comes to perks, and, you know, we've already talked about add-ons, and yeah, that's why I recommend this build, gang. Without further ado, you know, now that we've kind of talked about everything here, I'm going to let you guys see the match, and we'll kind of talk about everything that took place in the match afterward, and, you know, nice little analysis, and yeah, see you guys in a few. Yeah, I'd say ask me again once this match is over. Went ahead and opened myself a Dos Equis. Oh shit. Oh gosh, not this fucking map. I like chicken, I like puddles. I don't really like the puddles knife. I'm more about... Yeah, I'm running the same fucking build again. Okay, I guess we're doing more free-to-play clown. Okay. Oh no, the map of the god window. Don't remind me, Dooku. Try to keep him from main. Exactly, yeah. Tiers 1 to 3 are actually based on how common the survivor is. We're gonna somewhat make sure that we're ready. I'm not gonna commit. Go back this way. What's my 3-gen looking like? This is actually a good 3-gen. Yeah, this is my 3-gen right here. We're gonna create a little bit of a chokey here, gang. A little bit of a chokey choke. We're gonna play around the idea that he doesn't have any tunnel. Oh my gosh, why would I let that happen? I auto-aimed myself! That was all preventable on my end. Does my man have OTR? He has OTR! He has OTR and he's W gaming! I don't think she gets this. I hate this map. It's got some really weak dead zones. It does have some weak dead zones. It's just, the main building does terrify me. Let me go check back. This pallet's not a problem. How does it chain? Yeah, it doesn't entirely chain into a window directly, so we can leave it up. I'm gonna kick this with pop, by the way. I've got a lot of injured survivors, right? But the way you play around multiple injured survivors like this seems to be what works best for me, is you camp until you're getting survivors actually out of the game. I'm actually not going to look to confirm. I'm just going to slug. I'm just going to slug. Especially with Jolt. Jolt's all the regression I need. Now we go back. They're all injured here too. Oh, that's so bad. About to say, I know he's about to break if he doesn't now. If I would have hit that pink, I could have grabbed him off the window. Thankfully, he's not going to play main, I think. Or is he? Oh my gosh, can I get a good bloom, please? I think I get this. Right, so that forced him. That's so good. Yo, that pink actually kept him away from upstairs. That pink literally kept him away. That was so game-changing. We need to pick up right now and hope that I'm not being followed. Holy shit, that was actually so huge. I like to disclose them from the US. We'll go check over here. I think this is where they would be. No? Isn't this my 3-gen? They broke the 3-gen. Okay. Yeah, and they already fully reset. Hooking the Cheryl would have probably been really good. It's just he had OTR, and I really wanted to see if I could punish that. Oh gosh, can I not bump into random shit? Oh. Oh my gosh, dude. The freaking FOV. Oh well, we've got a yellow and a pink. I'm just gonna get a tag and leave. Remember, we have sloppy. Bold move, Cotton. Let's see how she plays with it. Short side on the left. Oh! She didn't quite do what I thought she was gonna do. Not bad. We've got 3 bottles here. Got him. You're welcome, you're welcome. Yeah, we want this corner hook. Look at this hook, gang. Look at how weak this hook is. In fact, we are gonna kick this pallet. We are gonna kick it now. Look at this hook. If we play smart when the unhook happens, she's got really nowhere she can go. Now we will kick this pallet too. Now we do kick the pallet. We're just gonna create dead zones. We get value from pop here. Great. That was the healthy person, which means the only person doing the unhook is an injured person. She don't have any tunnel. We want to wait because she don't have any tunnel. Nice. And if we can go ahead and get the hook off here, we can go into pop. Ooh, this might actually be risky. Thankfully, she didn't get in front of us. Holy shit. That actually could have been very close. Now we go into pop. Great value from our perks. For a build that literally only requires clown. Look at how much regression we've been applying instantly through both Jolt and pop. That's another Jolt, by the way. Every time they trade like that, they slug. -8. -8. And we just go straight for her. Why? Because the other person has to come pick up that slug. Which means, what are they doing? Not gens. She's not going to make it back to window off of that. Hook, line, and sinker, gang. That's also high momentum right there. That's called maintaining high momentum. Put her on this hook. We can go get the other person. Possibly even get another pop off. Where'd they crawl to? Alright, so I feel like we're okay to check over here because we do have pop, gang. They get fucking immersed on though. Oh wow, she's actually still bleeding out. Hey, Dubslim, hey! Thank you and welcome. We're gonna go back. I have no idea where I slugged, by the way. Ooh, sweet. That's what I'm looking for. Bonk. -8%. And that's right. You're welcome. I'm glad to help. Thank you. That's what I strive for. And GG's to this team. Fairly close, given the build that we're running. And this, for those that don't know, again, who didn't hear me, this is my free-to-play clown build. This is the build that you can run if you just started the game. You are brand new to DBD. You don't have any other killer. This requires no other killer but clown. Hey, what's up, babe? It's my free-to-play clown build. And put her on this hook here. Later, A-Bomb. Always good to see you. Any 4% gamers? This is the Cheryl, isn't it? Yeah, this is the Cheryl. Cheryl's hanging in there, gang. What is this, a Deliverance gamer? She's probably got Deliverance, gang. Maybe? Nope. Honestly, it's not a bad build, I think. For what, you know, again, talking about only what's available to you. Indeed, Dooku, we never had to play it. Thank you! Remoulade and Rex, thank you! Very kind. So sweet, thank you. Dopamine, thank you. You guys are so sweet. Always nice to get kind words from the survivors. GG, well played. Damn, double distortion. Good thing we're running the build that doesn't have cigar box. Okay. Alright, GG's. Hello again, gang. So, while we were able to secure the win with 2 generators remaining, this match was actually a lot closer than it might seem. A big part about why there were still but 2 generators remaining, if not less, was because of the consistent and if not even persistent value that we were getting from our Jolt and Pop combination. You know, the survivors we were playing against, they were tapping these generators after we would apply Jolt, and that would mean that after we would hook a survivor, we could pop Goes the Weasel right after. There was one generator we popped not once, not twice, but 3 different times, totaling a regression of well over 50, maybe even 60% from Pop Goes the Weasel alone onto a generator. Anywhere from, I would say, a range 50 to 60%. Now factor in the jolts, 1, 2, 3 jolts, that's 24%. That's so much instant regression, especially when you factor in the moments that it's taking place. I think it was not 1 or 2 of those jolts was when it was the Sybil was working on almost completing the generator, and that bought me the time to apply Pop. I believe it was not once but twice. That is the value that we're really talking about here when it comes from Pop Goes the Weasel and really Jolt. You know, Jolt served its purpose. It's why I do think I put Jolt as, you know, the showcase here and not a match that used a different perk in turn. You know, there is good synergy there, especially if survivors are willing to tap the generators, you know. And we even saw value again from Jolt alone without Pop. There was a moment when, I believe it was when we were going to slug the Cheryl before we went to go tunnel out. I believe it was we were going to go tunnel out a different survivor. It was probably, I believe, the Leon, but I digress. And because we downed them in an area near a generator that had some progress that wasn't going to be worked on anytime soon, that meant that that generator could regress without anyone going to stop that passive regression while we rotated back to tunnel the person who was then about to get unhooked off the hook. Okay, that is the value that Jolt does even have independently. And, you know, again, we finished this match with 2 gens remaining. But why is it that they even got that far, and why is it things are so close? Well, we addressed why it was so close for the gens to get done, but why did they get all the gens done early to begin with? Well, for one thing, Leon had off the record. This 1 perk alone, gang, bought them probably combined, I would say collectively, if they were playing gen efficiently, this bought them 2.5 generators. If you factor in the 2 different chases where he got off the record value combined, in addition to the time he spent on the hook, not once but twice, it's about 2.5 generators alone came purely from this Leon. Because our first chase came quick. Remember, our first chase came quick. I would say about half a gen's worth of pressure on average, if we, collectively. And so that's what we really see there. That's what happens, you know, when survivors do run anti-tunnel perks. And, you know, we didn't play entirely the best around it. I was trying to really play more aggressively because we were getting fast follow-up chases, but that aggression was still matched in turn by them playing intelligently with their unhooks. They did get those unhooks to where I wasn't there immediately to break it during the base kit BT. And they were doing those gens. So yeah, basically Leon alone bought 2.5 gens, and that's kind of how we were sitting with, at the end, 2 gens left. The only way we still had those 2 gens was because we kept knocking off that progress. If we didn't get the type of value we got from Pop and Jolt, if you factor in how they broke the 3 gen at some point during the tunneling process on Leon, we very likely would have lost all of our generators. Now, what would have happened, gang, if that did take place? Again, we finished this match with only 2 gens remaining because of the power of our instant regression and just the situational just synergy that did really take place back to back to back. But what happens if that couldn't have if that didn't, that wasn't possible? What if we were on a map like Ormond? What if we were on something like Garden of Joy, where our chases, just by virtue of the sheer tile design, is going to be so difficult and so long that they have much more gen efficiency in the process? Well, then we're not going to see the returns. We're not going to see the returns from Jolt or Pop, or independently or synergistically. And as a result, those gens will all be completed. And what happens then, gang? What happens if we were on a map like that? Or even regardless, what if on the map we were on, they managed to get those gens done? Look at their builds. Their builds may not have been something entirely too crazy, right? It breaks the mold, but they're not entirely too, I wouldn't say this team brought entirely too weak builds, right? Yeah, they didn't all bring items, right? But they have, well, for one thing, back to the topic we're talking about, do y'all notice what they all have? 4 times adrenaline. You have adrenaline on Cheryl, adrenaline on Sybil, adrenaline on Maria, and adrenaline on Leon. So what would have happened if I spread my pressure against this efficient team, gang? What do you think would have taken place, especially if they got all those generators done? Full heals. And when you're dealing with a coordinated team, and I know this is a free-to-play build that is, in some degree meant to be tailored around benefiting players the most that are newer, to the best of that experience. Keep in mind, because, I am playing on my main account, I am going to be playing against strong survivors that are very likely playing together, that are very likely coordinated, despite how far pushing into the meta their builds themselves may be, right? And so what that means is that spreading pressure, especially, we tunneled out the person with the med kit. Imagine if we didn't. Imagine if we gave him full efficiency. Imagine if we broke Chase because of the OTR and didn't full commit, allowed him to mend his own deep wound, get value from his med kit while the rest of his team sat on gens. We would be in such a losing position that it would be borderline uncompromisable, no-ed or not. Because no-ed can only really do so much. No-ed is not going to win you your games on its own. In the 1v4 situation, at best, no-ed will get you 1 kill. At best. Because what that presumes is that the other survivors leave. If the other survivors don't leave, they get the cleanse, they full heal, they commit toward the unhook, and this is basically possible if you are spreading hooks, because you won't have a survivor on death hook where the time period to do this is so low and re-coordinate that. But again, given that everybody does have adrenaline, they wouldn't even need to heal. It would be so much faster and easier that they could literally just group up for it if one person finds the no-ed off the bat. You really are going to get punished if you don't take somebody out here, no-ed or not. No-ed may mean that if you commit to a chase with one of these 4 survivors, that you can down them in a single hit and put them on the hook. But what are you going to do when that no-ed gets cleansed shortly after, and then the survivors that are all still healthy because of adrenaline, they come together to save their teammate with the 99 Exegate, with the base kit BT, with all this other shit? They don't have, thankfully, any hope or MFT. But, you know, all of the coordination, especially depending on hook placement, they're getting out that exit gate in a lot of situations. A lot of situations. Okay, maybe not on this map specifically with the hooks, etc., etc. If the generators did get done, would that have happened? Possibly not. But that is something that absolutely will lose you games. I want to be very clear on that. If you are in a situation, a 1v4 situation, where you are playing around no-ed, getting you an actual win, the best you will ever really see in a practical sense is probably 1. You might get 2 if they get overzealous. If they get overzealous and then they decide to cut their losses, you could probably get 2. But 1 kill is the most practical, and worst case, you'll still get 0. Because like I said, you're spreading hooks, they heal with adrenaline, they don't have to spend time healing before the hook timer runs out, they get the cleanse on the no-ed, which means that they can body block for each other, yada yada yada, 99 exit gate, get out the doors. That's a wrap, gang, that's all she wrote. And that's what it boils down to. That's why I tunnel in camp, gang. And that's why I put emphasis on everybody when they play clown. You're going to want to get yourself into that scheme. You want to get into the rhythm of where you are playing hyper aggressively, focusing on 1 survivor, because that is how you avoid these situations. 4 times adrenaline. You take a survivor out before all the gens get done, if they were to get done. Now there are only 3 times adrenaline. What happens if you take out 2 survivors, and they just get the last gens done, last second when there are 2 survivors, and you have no-ed? It doesn't matter whether or not they cleanse the no-ed, because they can't solo save. The best they trade. And that's what it boils down to. They trade, you get your 3k, that's a wrap. That's that's the bottom line, right? The bottom line, you 3k equals win. And that's kind of why we run the build that we do. And that is kind of why, we play the way that we play. And that is why I ultimately really recommend it. Again, the builds could have been sweatier, but the idea behind this is that you have good momentum during the generator phase, and that if things do go south, you do have the no-ed to clean up during the end game. And Sloppy especially helps with sometimes keeping survivors injured, It definitely does. It makes it to where, especially unless they have something like a medkit and will make it, and you come straight off the hook, they can't prevent you from. They can't, get the heal off before you prevent them, and then get the regression from Sloppy. But that's really kind of how this build works. It's what it boils down to, and that's why I recommend this build. You don't have to invest anything on any other killer. You can literally just brand new get the game, start playing clown. We already talked about the perks and everything, but I will close up this video by saying that I would consider in some situations replacing Jolt with Agitation. I'd already talked about my reasons why, just again rebuffering. If this was literally any other map, like that was normally especially on the bad end for clown, if this was something like Ormond, if this was something like Borgo, anything where you are actually dependent to get your win on hooking a survivor in a really compromising position, like either a corner dead zone where there is nothing. Swamp is a great example. Oh my gosh, let's add that one to the list too. Pale Rose and Grim Pantry. You can hook survivors, Agitation or not. Agitation especially helps. In these corners on the swamp maps where there are no pallets. There are no vaults. And if they don't have any anti-tunnel perks, it's GG's. You can get them after base kit BT. If they body block, you can break body blocks early if you especially come by at a good time. There's very little survivors can do, especially without anti-tunnel, in those situations. And that's something where, Agitation again will help. Agitation will open up your horizon. It expands the range in which you can take a survivor to and fro. Take them from an area where you downed them to these dead zone corner hooks where you can punish it. Because if you don't have agitation, right, if you are running this Jolt build, well, for one thing, especially with the Jolt build and the way the gens can be spread in placement, you're not going to be getting as much instant regression value. And if you aren't able to get as strong hooks, well, you know, that means it's going to be a lot harder to get the tunnel and get them back on the hook. You know, that's a big deal. You need to get a survivor out of the game as clown. And, you know, again, I know the bar is going to be lower when, you know, we're talking about newer players. I'm just kind of showcasing the performance that we really did see because, you know, again, I am playing on my main account against higher level players. And, yeah, you know, just kind of, you know, tailor that and keep that in mind, right, with respect to everything that I have said. Because that is, again, why I think, you know, I do think why we played well is because, again, it's our understanding of the killer. And also just the fact that the build itself is good, you know, despite the fact we were using yellow add-ons. But yeah, I think that just about covers everything here, gang. We talked about the build, we talked about the perks, the add-ons, everything else. And I hope you guys enjoyed it. You know, this is something I'm recommending for people brand new to DBD, brand new to clown. You aren't going, I know it's as far as replicating the individual performance that I did with my chases, with my bottle usage. Don't try to put as much emphasis. I say this in the conclusion, but I really mean this. Don't put as much emphasis when you're brand new to DBD and clown with trying to do exactly what I'm doing with both my yellow and my pink bottles together. Focus just more on what these perks do for you when you are winning your chases, right? You're likely, because the thing is, you know, especially as a new player, you're going to get survivors that are going to be just in dead zones, you know, that give you free downs. They're going to give you free downs, which are going to apply Jolt, and the survivor may touch it anyways, whether or not, which means you can pop it, right? You see the synergy there, right? You know what I mean? You see, like, when I hit a survivor, right, there are instances in this match where I would hit a survivor, and I would leave. It was the Cheryl. You know, we injured the Cheryl. We left, chased Maria, hit her once, continued chasing, downed her, corner hook. Cheryl comes. What happens? She comes. She's injured. She doesn't commit to it because she's injured, and I'm coming in. She breaks away. What do? I slug her because she's injured. I don't have to commit to a 2 health state chase. I slug her. I come back to Maria. She's got complete dead zones because I kicked the pallets. She doesn't have anti-tunnel. And I'm able to just tunnel out Maria, put her again on the hook, applying Jolt again, applying Pop again. That's where our regression was coming from. And when all of this was taking place, what's going on, gang? Because it was the Sybil who had to do this, because it was the Maria who was on the hook, because we already tunneled out the Leon, Cheryl is bleeding out on the ground. Because when Cheryl was initially coming in, and because I initially injured her before I committed to chasing the Maria, I was able to slug her for pressure with the knowledge that the only person who could pick her up if Maria's on the hook is the Sybil, who's the person coming to unhook the Maria, which means no one can pick up the Cheryl. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? That's really why you can have value in some situations, especially by going with, you know, some hit and run from Sloppy. Both even kind of at the lower end of the spectrum when it comes to MMR and like the player expectancy, you know, we're talking new players, and also somewhat higher up, right? Because again, I don't think the survivors were too bad. They were sitting on the gens very efficiently, right, gang? They were just running slightly more relaxed builds. You know, they weren't running 4 times BNP. They didn't have 2 to 3, 4 times made for this. But I mean, hey, it's not like they were running fucking Pebble and Deception. You know what I mean, gang? Like, they did bring Prove Thyself. They did bring, what was it, 1, 2, 3, 4 times Lithe. Good exhaustion perk. Not at all complaining about it, but it's still, it is a strong perk, right, gang? 4 times Adrenaline. You know, very, very fucking strong perk. A perk that necessitates, again, like I said, taking a survivor out of the match before all the gens get done, especially if you don't have a perk like Noed. Thankfully, we did, you know. Prove Thyself, a perk that literally, when you aren't in a 3-gen situation and there are 2 survivors left, guarantees that they are getting that gen done in the time that it takes you to do a single chase minimum, if not earlier, which if they get it done earlier, what do they have, gang, when you're chasing the survivor? Adrenaline, Which means good fucking thing we got Noed, right? Really, really, really putting emphasis on that, gang, and I'm serious about that. That's why we don't have Noed as the perk I say you swap out, because, you know, this perk is very much available to a lot of people. It's available from Meg. You know, a lot of people are going to have Adrenaline. A lot of people don't necessarily like running Mate for this. They'd rather run an Exhaustion, like Lithe, and that's when this situation is going to come up, gang. You know, it's gonna come up, especially if you don't own Gabe. If you don't own a lot of people don't own Gabe, but you know who they own? They own Meg. You know, so just really, really keep that in mind. Okay, and that's really what all happened and what it boils down to with how we got this win here, gang. Early or not, and despite it again, early or not, we had just what we needed. Worst case scenario. But yeah, I really, really hope this video was informative. I was going to go get a bit more deeper into this, but I don't really think that's entirely necessary with this type of highlight. You know, again, put emphasis, look at how we chose our chases. Really, really pay attention if you're looking for a rebuffer. Pay attention to how we committed our chases this game. Look at our hooks. You know, we lost our 3-gen early. When we committed to the Leon to get him out after, I believe, the second hook, we actually lost our 3-gen in the process, but we went for the decision of attrition, which means we just completely commit to hard tunneling and just getting fast chases, and that worked out for us, right? That worked out for us, and, you know, pay attention to how we executed that. How, again, like I said, our hook placements, how we, you know, played to get fast chases, and how we did other things, like I said, injuring the Cheryl, so that way she couldn't go for a free save, how we were able to execute the slugging for the snowball in the process, things like that. But yeah, gang, I hope y'all, you know, again, I really hope you guys appreciate these types of videos. I continue to like to do more of these because I enjoy doing them, you know. I enjoy really doing these types of videos. It's fun for me, so I'm really sorry on like a little meta comment with respect to streaming just very much recently. I apologize with how streams have been very sporadic, how they haven't been very long, and how things have been very difficult to really get anything going. I've been having ISP and internet issues. It makes it very, very difficult for me to do anything for you guys in that type of respect, because if I can't stay online for very long without the stream crashing, or if I'm getting, you know, like 5 to 7 frames on stream and you guys are seeing, you know, some people like to say PowerPoint presentations. I do find it funny. I don't actually mind that, you know, slideshows. Well, I mean, what benefit is there from that, right? What benefit? So even though I haven't been able to stream for you guys, I did have minimum 2 highlights for 2 different videos. This is one of them. I'm going to be trying to get you guys some educational, you know, YouTube video content. And so, you know, I'll be looking to get back to streaming very much soon. And again, you know, if y'all are on that note, for anyone new here, if you are looking to see matches like these live, the commentary explanations, if you want to ask me questions about DBD and Clown, things of that nature, I stream on twitch.tv. Name is Airnad, just like you see on the YouTube channel. But other than that, gang, I hope to see y'all soon on Twitch. But again, I hope y'all have a very nice day. Thanks y'all for watching. I hope y'all really enjoyed and appreciate this, and it helped everyone as much as it, you know, as I hope it would. And, you know, y'all take care.